There are no press conferences, no pastel-coloured hospital balloons, no cheerful announcements broadcasted to a waiting nation. The story of your life begins in absolute, suffocating secrecy, plunging you directly into a reality so surreal it feels like a geopolitical thriller. You are born in a heavily fortified underground wing of the Wonsan compound. Above you, anti-aircraft batteries silently scan the skies. In the delivery room, there is no nervous, pacing family holding cameras. Instead, there are military generals covered in medals and elite state doctors who are strictly forbidden, under penalty of death, to ever whisper your name outside those thick concrete walls. You are the daughter of the North Korean Supreme Leader, and for the first decade of your life, to the outside world, you simply do not exist. Matt, this is the ultimate paradox of your birth. You are the most important child in a rogue nuclear state, yet you are a ghost. As you grow, you enter what feels like the first level of an incredibly complex, high-stakes simulation. This is your hidden childhood. We often think of royalty living in palaces, but your reality is a sprawling, heavily militarized golden cage. You have private theme parks built exclusively for your amusement. You eat imported Swiss chocolates while the rest of the country relies on strict state rations. You wander through endless opulent corridors lined with marble, but the isolation is profound. It is a quiet that constantly rings in your ears. You start to realize that something is fundamentally wrong with the world around you when you look at your carefully selected playmates. Yet these are the children of high-ranking officials, brought in specifically to keep you company. But they do not play like normal children. They are terrified. You notice the slight tremor in a boy's hand when you play a simple board game. You see the sheer panic in a girl's eyes if she accidentally runs faster than you in the garden. They are terrified of winning. They are terrified of upsetting you. Because even at 5 or 6 years old, you begin to understand a dark, unspoken truth. Your childhood tantrums have literal life or death consequences for the servants and the families of the people around you. A dropped plate, a harsh word from you, and a familiar face disappears from the palace, never to be seen again. You're just a child, but you hold the power of a god over the staff. It is a terrifying burden for a little girl to carry. So to cope with this suffocating atmosphere, you find a refuge, not in the sprawling gardens or the luxury cars, but in the digital world. You have private tutors, of course, the brightest minds in the regime, vetted 100 times over by state security. But one of them, a quiet man who teaches you foreign languages, takes a massive, unthinkable risk. He smuggles in foreign movies. They aren't on shiny discs or obvious tapes. They are on tiny micro SD cards, hidden inside the false bottom of a mundane object, like a pen or a hairbrush. Watching these films in the dead of night becomes a secret rebellion. You see bustling streets in Seoul, casual conversations in New York, people laughing loudly without looking over their shoulders. It introduces a subtle, incredibly dangerous system of coded nods and gestures between you and your tutor. Yeah, a raised eyebrow, a specific clearing of the throat. It becomes a shared secret in a house where every single room, every hallway, and every ornate ceiling is bugged by your own father's sprawling security apparatus. You are learning about a world you are strictly forbidden to touch. Then the break of innocence happens abruptly. You are around 10 years old. This marks level 2 of your life, your public debut. Suddenly, the ghost is pulled from the shadows and thrust onto the glaring global stage. But your diplomatic work is nothing like the life of a Western president's child. There are no Easter egg rolls on a White House lawn. There are no awkward teenage phases captured by paparazzi outside a local coffee shop. Instead, your introduction to the world involves standing on a stretch of freezing asphalt in the dead of winter. You are wearing a pristine, custom-tailored white designer puffer jacket. The wind bites at your face, and you are clapping. You are smiling and clapping as an intercontinental ballistic missile, a weapon capable of ending millions of lives, tears through the sky with an earth-shattering roar. The sensory overload of this moment is permanently burned into your memory. The ground shakes so violently it rattles your teeth. The acrid, burning smell of rocket fuel mixes in the freezing air with the expensive imported perfume worn by the elites standing behind you. In that deafening roar, looking at the state media cameras, broadcasting your face to billions of people, you realize exactly what you are. You are not just a daughter, you are a prop. You are a highly calculated psychological weapon. Your soft, innocent face is being used to soften your father's brutal image and to signal to the world and to the aging generals the ironclad continuity of the Kim dynasty. Entering your teenage years, the narrative of your life darkens significantly. You develop a crushing awareness of the financial and moral contrast of your existence. You look out the tinted windows of your armoured Mercedes convoy and see the grey, crumbling infrastructure of the countryside. You become acutely aware of a horrifying math: the cost of your private horseback riding lessons, the imported thoroughbreds, the heated stables. It could literally feed an entire starving province. This realization doesn't make you a revolutionary. It makes you incredibly paranoid. The isolation deepens into a profound, suffocating paranoia, strikingly similar to the mindset of a high-ranking cartel boss. You can trust absolutely no one. Every smile directed at you is calculated. Every compliment is a survival tactic from the person giving it. A normal adolescence is a biological impossibility. Think about the concept of a first love. For most teenagers, it is a time of awkward texts, secret meetings, and butterflies. For you, it is a deadly risk. You understand early on that anyone who gets close to you inherits your prison. If you were to show affection for a boy, you wouldn't just be giving him your heart, you would be placing a massive target on his back. A single wrong word from a teenage crush, a misplaced joke, a moment of frustration could send his entire extended family, his parents, his siblings, his grandparents, to a brutal labor camp. The regime does not tolerate loose ends around the supreme bloodline. Because of this terrifying reality, you build walls of solid ice around yourself. You are completely untouchable, and because you are untouchable, you are completely, devastatingly alone. You learn to kill your own emotions before they can endanger anyone else. In your late teens and early 20s, the story shifts geographically. You are granted a brief, highly controlled taste of the outside world. You go to study abroad, perhaps in a quiet, picturesque city in Switzerland, living under a meticulously crafted false identity. You have a normal sounding name. You wear normal clothes. You sit in lecture halls and listen to professors talk about global economics and political science, subjects that directly dissect your own family's regime. You walk the cobblestone streets of Europe, breathing crisp, free air. You sit in cafes and listen to university students complain about exams and trivial drama, knowing what real state terror actually looks like. But the invisible cage remains firmly in place. You are never truly alone. You are constantly shadowed by elite state security agents, men who blend seamlessly into the background but never take their eyes off you. You can buy a coffee, you can browse a bookstore, but you cannot make a real friend. You cannot stay out late and lose track of time. You are a prisoner on a very long, incredibly expensive leash. It is during these years abroad that you experience the agonizing dilemma of your future. The thought creeps in late at night, staring at the ceiling of your luxury apartment. You could theoretically try to defect. You're in Europe. You could walk into a foreign embassy, Declare exactly who you are and ask for asylum. It is the ultimate temptation. Freedom is just a taxi ride away, but you know the mechanics of Pyongyang too well. The regime is a machine, impersonal, immortal, and utterly unforgiving. If you defect, the machine will demand blood. Your family members who aren't at the very top, the staff who raised you, the security detail assigned to protect you in Europe, they would all pay the ultimate price for your freedom. Their blood would be entirely on your hands. You realize that your golden cage is locked from the inside, and the key is the lives of hundreds of innocent people. And so, the climax of your youth is not a dramatic, movie-style escape across a border. It is a quiet, profoundly melancholic acceptance of your destiny. You pack your bags. You leave the Swiss Alps behind. You board the state-owned jet, and you return to Pyongyang. You accept the burden of your bloodline. But returning home does not mean ascending to power. Not yet. Not in the way you had imagined. There is a condition. There is always a condition. Your father calls you into his private study. A room you have entered maybe a dozen times in your entire life. A room that smells of cigarettes and cold, strategic calculation. He sits across from you at a heavy mahogany desk and speaks in the measured, flat tone he reserves for state decisions. He tells you about General Ri, Marshal Ri Sung-jin, the most decorated military commander in the country's history. The man who has stood 2 steps behind your father for 30 years. His right hand, his shadow, his most trusted instrument of power. You have seen Marshal Ri your entire life. He is always there, at every missile launch, every military parade, every private dinner with the high command. He is a man of roughly 70, with a face that looks like it was carved specifically to express nothing. He has never looked at you warmly. He has never looked at you at all, really. You were always background to him, scenery, and now you learn that his son, a man you have met exactly twice, a quiet, broad-shouldered officer in his early 30s named Ri Jae-won, is to become your husband. The decision has already been made. The date has already been set. You are informed, not asked. The distinction in this house has always been everything. The political logic is cold and impeccable. Your father's health is failing. The generals are restless. The supreme bloodline alone is not enough to hold the machinery of the state together. Not without a man standing beside it, a man the military trusts, a man whose father has spent 3 decades accumulating loyalty among the high command. Jae-won is that man, or rather his father is, and Jae-won is the instrument through which that loyalty is transferred to you. The wedding is not a celebration, it is a merger, a geopolitical transaction disguised in white silk and state media fanfare. Your father dies 14 months after the wedding. The state mourning is precisely choreographed. The wailing crowds, the military processions, the portraits draped in black silk across the length of every major avenue in Pyongyang. And then the world watches with its collective breath held as power appears to transfer to you. Your face is on the state broadcasts. Your name is spoken by the anchors in the careful, reverential cadence previously reserved for your father and grandfather. Internationally, analysts debate what a female supreme leader means for the regime. But inside the walls of the Supreme Command, the reality is entirely different. You sit at the head of the table. You always sit at the head of the table. But it is Jae-won who speaks first. It is Jae-won who the generals look at when a decision needs to be finalized. It is subtle, almost imperceptible to an outsider. A slight pause before they take your orders. A half second where their eyes drift sideways to your husband, searching for the confirmation they actually need. You are the face of the dynasty. He is its spine. May you understand the architecture of this arrangement with terrible clarity. The generals do not distrust you because you are incompetent. They distrust you because you are a woman, and in the calculus of the Korean People's Army, a woman even a Kim, has never commanded the absolute, unquestioned obedience of men who have spent their lives inside a military machine built entirely by and for men. J1 is their translation layer. You speak and he ratifies. Without that ratification, your words echo in a room full of politely lowered eyes. Your father-in-law, Marshal Rhee, is still alive, still present, and his presence in every high command meeting is a masterclass in how power truly works in this country. He never contradicts you openly, he never challenges you directly, he simply exists, a vast, yet ancient gravitational force that every general in the room orbits instinctively. He smiles at you with the practiced warmth of a man who has survived 4 decades of supreme leadership transitions. You know that smile. You have seen it directed at people who disappeared shortly after. There is one final condition to your rule, one final transaction left to complete. Everyone in the high command knows it, though no one says it directly. It is communicated through 1,000 small signals. The way Marshal Rhee asks about your health, with slightly too much interest at state dinners, the way the senior party officials' wives watch your midsection when they think you aren't looking, the way J1 himself grows quieter and more distant with each passing month. The regime needs an heir, not just any heir, a son. You lie awake in the vast, cold bed of the supreme residence and understand the transaction with perfect, nauseating clarity. You are a vessel. You have always been a vessel. For the dynasty's image, for the general's political comfort, for your father's legacy. And now you are a vessel for this as well. The irony is almost poetic. The most powerful bloodline in the country, and yet the body that carries it has never once belonged to itself. The pregnancy is announced on a Tuesday in a terse state media bulletin that sends the country into orchestrated celebration. Fireworks are set off over Pyongyang. Factories report record production numbers that week. Numbers that are, of course, invented, but that is beside the point. The point is the signal. The point is continuity. The point is that the machine has secured its own future. Now, when the doctors confirm it is a boy, something shifts in the room that you cannot fully describe. J1 exhales in a way that tells you everything about what he has been carrying for the past 9 months. Marshal Rhee, that ancient immovable mountain of a man, closes his eyes for exactly 3 seconds. And in those 3 seconds you see something you have never seen on his face before. Relief. Pure, unguarded relief. You realize that he has been afraid this entire time, afraid that his son's position was contingent on a variable neither of them could control. You have resolved that fear, and in doing so, you have finally purchased something that power and title alone could never buy you. A measure of real security inside the machine. You look at the ultrasound image in your hands, a small, blurry shape, a future supreme leader. A child who will be born into the same suffocating secrecy as you. In the same fortified compound, surrounded by the same generals and the same silence and the same invisible walls. He will not know for years the specific weight of the crown he is already wearing. And you, who have spent your entire life learning every contour of that weight, will be the one who has to teach him. You press your hand against your stomach. And for the first time in as long as you can remember, you are not standing alone. You find yourself standing on the high-rise balcony of the Supreme Palace, staring out through thick bulletproof glass at the capital below. Pyongyang stretches out in the dark, silent and orderly, a city where millions sleep under the watchful, unblinking eye of your family's bronze statues. Your father's face, your grandfather's face. One day, perhaps, your son's face. You press your hand against the cold, impenetrable glass. You understand with absolute, terrifying clarity that the entire country is a prison. You hold the title of Supreme Leader. Your name is spoken with reverence by 25 million people. and yet the real power still passes through a man. First your father, then your husband, and eventually, when he is old enough, your son. You are the dynasty's face, its symbol, its continuity. But the machinery beneath you runs on arrangements you did not choose and conditions you could not refuse. And yet, and this is the part that surprises you, the part you did not expect, there is something in that knowledge that is almost peaceful. You are not free. You have never been free. May end, you will not be free in this lifetime, but you are no longer entirely alone inside the cage. Somewhere down the hall, in a room kept at a precise temperature by anxious state doctors, a small boy sleeps. He does not yet know what he is. He does not yet feel the weight. For now, he is simply warm and small and real. And he is yours, and for this one night, standing above the dark, silent city, that is enough.